fancy intro music. Yeah! Woohoo!
Hey, Star Trek Fleet Commanders, look, reputation grinding has changed a lot in the game. And as you can see here, you got to do it whether you're a low level or a high level. This is, of course, my level 26 account on server 710. But how do you do it? Well, we're going to go over what the basics are for those that don't know, and we're going to talk about where the best place to grind rep is in today's game, especially if you're a G4, G5, or G6 player. And I'll even give you a couple of tools and a couple of little tips to help you be better at it. That way, if you are flying in like I am right now with my Vidar to do a little bit of grinding, you know what to hit, why to hit that, and what you're going to get from it. So let's actually start with low level grinding right here. Real simple for those that don't know. If you're new to the game, there are a lot of players new to the game these days. If you want to grind rep, the easiest and best way is to grind faction traders. Why? Simple answer. They have the most reputation available for a level type. So here you can see I would get 364 raw, Klingon rep, as well as 182 Federation. And if I was to compare that to, say, another 33, you can see it is different. It's only 182 and 91, whereas here we have double that. So much higher rates when it comes to what you're actually going to get when you're doing the grinding itself. And this is true from the very early steps. Some of the earliest systems you're going to grind in are going to be, for example, the level 20s. For me, that's Davidul in this particular instance because I'm trying to go Federation and Klingon, meaning I'm going to hunt a lot of Romulans, and you're looking for this little icon right there, that little miner icon, so that you know that there are transport surveys, however you want to identify them, in those systems so that you can then take them on and thus get the better rep. And also something worth noting that they have less weapons. They only have one weapon that fires one time per round, so they're far easier to take down, especially if you're using your Pipe Moreau Chin crew or even some of your earlier crews like Lieutenant Picard, Beverly Crusher Chin, or even the cadets or the next generation. As I said early on, whatever you're doing, you're going to be probably having better results. Very unlikely to see better results from another type, but just in case, gotta throw that caveat out there, you're going to be able to grind these. And this is going to, again, extend all the way into G4, where recently you've seen some changes where this is no longer the most effective method. But again, you're doing this in the same thing in each one. If you're in Klingons, where you're getting rep for Romulans and Federation. If you're in the Federation, where you're going to be getting rep for Romulans and Klingons. It just depends on what you're hitting, but they have comparable hostiles all the way up. And what you'll find in the upper G3 realm is people are grinding in the capital systems, Sol, Romulus, and Kronos. What are the benefits of doing that? Well, the simplest benefits are, if you're grinding here, the blueprints that drop are going to be things like Kelvin blueprints and Newton blueprints and Hydra blueprints. Those G4 ships that maybe you're looking for to getting later on down the road can help give you a little bit of a jump start. Whereas if I'm in Romulan space, if I was to go to Romulus, then I would be getting Valdor and Pylum, etc. blueprints to help me for my future runs. Now, what does this look like if you're at a higher level account? Well, let's blank out this one, right? Get rid of that one and boot up our server 20 real quick. What's the difference? Well, here's how it has changed. Now, instead of going into these, what typically you're seeing a lot of players do for the most bang for their buck is they're grinding in mirror space for their reputation. And you might go, Ref, how the heck do you grind in mirror space, which is not a faction, and get reputation? So glad you asked. In fact, I'm ecstatic that you asked. So happy. All right, well, here's why. Because in each of these systems, you're going to have basically kind of brackets. Now, the one annoying part of Mirror, and I've said this before, I hate this part of Mirror, is the fact that you're jumping from system to system, and you are going to have to monitor the gates and make sure it goes, because the whole, you got to be in the rift to be able to use it error pops up for me all the time. However, what you're going to notice, specific hostiles in places such as Mirror Talseti that are, well, surveys. But you might go, well, what's special about these surveys? And what you're going to find, I'm just going to go ahead and shout it out now, especially when you're getting deeper in G4 and into G5, players are starting to use things like Miraromi and Chiron and Terex. Why is that? Well, let me pull up my logs and show you. If we scroll down, you're going to see a bunch of these Romulan Republic miners, and you're like, well, that's weird. Well, where did I hit these? I hit them in Mirror Chiron, what I was just saying. And what you're going to note from these is what they drop. And you're going to say, hey, broken ship parts, don't really need a lot of that. But it's more than just the broken ship parts. It is, thanks to our friends at Spox Club, I can show you this. Put this on the screen right now. It is that right there. So reputation, and you get rep per hull. So you can see in this set of grinding, now this is giving me a rough estimate. It's not a specific. You can also, of course, go into your bonuses here and actually say, hey, we're doing this, or maybe you have a higher syndicate level now. It depends on how you've linked these together. but it's going to give you a rough amount of what you're going to earn. And as you can see here, I'm earning the reputation I need to progress my faction. But not only am I earning reputation, I'm actually earning the exact same amount for each faction. Now, I know the first thing that some people out there are going to say, Rev, I don't want to try faction grind. You want to leave one negative. I hear you, but here's a little bit of a difficulty with that in today's game. So number one, a lot of the new hostiles like this are coming out, giving you all 3 reps. You also have the issue with your IA building. What I mean by the IA building. So the IA building also pays out reputation if you have maxed out and mastered your Talios and your Vidar. So you go into your archives, what you're going to see with your Talios and Vidar mastering each is you're getting reputation and faction credits, which is great to get those faction credits, but reputation. So the game is actually making it more difficult to have a faction reputation that is negative. Now, I do want to give you good news. If you're part of that camp, you can still do the same method I was speaking of before that is still most practical to G3 players, which is to grind a faction. So still do the same thing. You're looking at surveys, and once you get into G6, you're more looking at, explorers, battleships, etc. But for G4, G5, if you do really want to keep a faction negative, you can do so. Remember, there are several faction locks in the game. Faction locks meaning that once they reach a certain level, they will not drop below. I'll pop into here and remind you of what those are. So the first faction lock in the game is 10 million. Once you hit 10 million, it will not drop below 10 million. The next is 1 billion. Once you hit 1 bill, for example, my federation cannot drop below that. And then you have 15 billion. And then last, but certainly not least, quite literally the opposite least, you have 500 billion, or the current reputation locks in the game. So if you're out there, as long as you don't hit 10 million, you can keep one negative. But if you do hit that mark, then you're going to be stuck at that point. And I do understand that there are players who don't want to have all 3 locked. I do feel like personally the benefits outweigh the negatives. Obviously, the ability to have multiple faction credits, thus allowing you to do things like multiple sourcings of your Novas. If you're going to be a new G5 player, well, all the Nova BPs are Nova BPs. There's not like a Federation Nova BP and a Romulan one. All of them are the same. So if you have all of them that have the reputation required, well, then all of them can help contribute to getting your Nova. That's just a singular example, though. That's also not taking into account the amount of speed ups you're going to get and all the other resources and benefits that can come with being, in a good standing with said factions. However, the current method and the current, what I would call meta, the best tactic available is grinding in mirror. And early G4 players might still find it better to grind in capital systems, especially when we talk about, the ability to get blueprints. And here's Kronos. Here, for an example, it's something that a lot of players still grind to this day, and something that you can do in G5, because as you can see here, shout out to Psylocke Psy, who is currently grinding here at the same time that I'm making this video. So they get a free shout out. But whether you're at level 34 with a brand new Enterprise, Augur, etc., or you're at level 42 using that same Enterprise from a few levels ago, you can grind in here with the benefits being the big blueprint drops. One more thing I do want to talk about, though, when it comes to the drops that makes Mirror special, or what you're going to get from those drops that aren't just reputation and broken ship parts. Especially important for you Sigma players, Sigma speedups. Yes, starting at these 61 and above hostiles, you can get Sigma speedups. And again, there are a lot of different places you can grind. I always encourage everybody to go over here and hit that little hostile button, not the mining button, hit the hostile button to see what is available in each system, whether it's explorers, whether it's traders. You can see we got traders here in Mirror Altania. You come over here, you're going to find more options. But for speaking generally, going out here to get these 61s up here, getting these 60s and getting down into Mirror Ramu, Mirror Sharon, that's where you're going to find a lot of benefits. And if you're a Sigma player, Sigma speedups. But don't worry, if you're a lower level player, you can also get Sigma speedups for the future, or simply grind at lower levels and still get speedups for where you're at now. And not the repair speedups, which many of you are sitting on a surplus of, but the regular speedups to go ahead and grind your everyday stuff, researches, buildings, etc., and make those better. That's currently where you're at when it comes to grinding reputation. One last thing I would love to remind all of you on is that every ability that says it increases loot means it also increases rep. That includes, yes, Enterprise E Picard. That includes, yes, 5 of 11. That includes, yes, Beer, or Andorian Doc Brown, who just came out a couple of months ago. All of these increase the reputation that you earn. Here's that officer that I'm speaking of, for example. Anything that increases loot is also going to increase the amount of rep you get as you're grinding. All these steps making it easier to progress through the game with rep grinding here in 2025. It's changed a lot. It's gotten a lot easier, to the point that we have players who are grinding 10 billion rep a hole because of the mirror universe. But hopefully this video helps you out. If it did, like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. Live long and plunder. Stay safe with the Space Cowboys. Deuces, that's me. Catch you on the next one. Love you, appreciate you, and I'm out.
An even better outro than the intro. For the Empire and glory to your house.